Welcome to Strip Cover Lit. I'm Adrian Fort, and Dalton is sitting uncomfortably close to me.
And I'm Dalton Gentry. How are you?
Do you know why he's sitting uncomfortably close to me? Because this is a poetry review, and we are reviewing a poem by his favorite poet, Miss...
What? I don't want to play along anymore. I'm done.
Miss Emily Dickinson.
This is Emily Dickinson. This is If You Were Coming in the Fall.
Which you told me in confidence.
No, I didn't.
That you actually liked this poem.
I didn't say that.
Yes, you most certainly did.
If I were to say something like that, I would say that to you in person, so you did not have text or written evidence of that.
That's why I am putting this out here now, because I don't know what your rating is at the end of this review, but if it does not reflect the fact that you liked this poem, we're going to have physical violence.
I like this. I gave it a 3. All right, anyway, let's read it. All right.
let's have your reading from the crappy.
Shut up.
Here. Okay.
If you were coming in the fall, I'd brush the summer by.
You should probably start over.
If you were coming in the fall, I'd brush the summer by.
One more time.
If you were coming in the fall, I'd brush the summer by.
Say it with enthusiasm.
With half a smile and half a spurn, as housewives do a fly. If I could see you in a year, I'd wind the months and balls, and put them each in separate drawers until their time befalls. If only centuries delayed, I'd count them on my hand, subtracting till my fingers dropped into Van Diemen's land. If certain when this life was out that yours and mine should be, I'd toss it yonder like a rind and taste eternity. But now, all ignorant of the length of time's uncertain wing, it goads me, like the goblin bee that will not state its sting. Your move.
What's this line here?
And now uncertain of the length of this that is between? What? If certain when this life was out? Is that the right line?
No.
But now all ignorant of the length of time's uncertain wing. But now uncertain of the length of this that is between. We have different versions. I bet you probably have the original one, don't you?
This seems to be an encompassing text edited by Thomas H. Johnson. Very good.
Thanks for making me buy that. Your move.
You still have the spirit of Emily Dickinson.
Uh-huh.
If you were coming in the fall, I'd brush the summer by, with half a smile and half a spurn, as housewives do a fly. If I could see you in a year, I'd wind the months in balls, and put them each in separate drawers, for fear the numbers fuse. If only centuries delayed, I'd count them on my hand, subtracting till my fingers dropped into Van Diemen's land. If certain when this life was out that yours and mine should be, I'd toss it yonder like a rind, and take eternity. But now, uncertain of the length of this that is between, it goads me like the goblin bee, that will not state its sting.
Flip your page back. Second stanza. And put them each in separate drawers until their time befalls.
Yeah, that's the first thing that caught my ear, and it didn't sound familiar.
And yours
so I started
is...
reading with it. And put them each in separate drawers, for fear the numbers fuse.
Look at that. So that's why I like this one so much. They edited it so much it wasn't Dickinson.
Bring your voice down first off.
It's a miracle.
Bring your voice down first off.
No.
Because you're going to make me violent.
No, that's so exciting to me. Who edited? This is not... they did not put an editor on this. This is just the Barnes & Noble Classic Edition.
Perhaps that's as it was written. But I don't believe so, because you don't have much of the punctuation either.
No, this is definitely not how it was written. Consulting editorial director, George Stade. This was done by the Temps.
Well, no, the thing with Emily Dickinson is when her poetry was first really discovered, because she wrote so much different than the poetry that had been written to that time, it was not published.
Yes.
It underwent extensive editing for different interpretations.
Yeah.
The big thing, obviously, was the long dash.
Yeah.
Whether or not you use a dash, whether or not you use a period, whether or not you do this, should that be where the line breaks? Because there's poems, for example, right on the kissing page to this, if anybody's friend be dead, there is a line, when it was, long dash, can you tell, long dash. So would that middle long dash be a line break as well? I lost my page mark here.
Sorry about that. But no, definitely different versions. But anyway, despite that, 3 good things, 3 bad things.
Go on.
This is, as I would like to put it, darkly disguised Dickinson. This doesn't read like normal Dickinson to me.
Okay.
This is different, and it seems more realistic, not as fantastic.
Okay.
Anyway,
we'll get into that a bit later because I've got something to say on those lines.
Second good thing, after I just said that, this focuses more on realistic concepts rather than the typical abstract Dickinson.
Okay, so number 1 and number 2 are the same thing there. You're going to have to think of a third.
Number 3, this beautifully captures the loneliness of Emily Dickinson.
Okay, so now think of a real third since number 1 and number 2 are the same.
My version's better because I bought this one. Go.
Okay, that's fine. We'll get back to it. Number 1. This is a top 5 Emily Dickinson final stanza. A lot of Emily Dickinson poetry, when you get into it, you realize that a lot of these poems die in that final stanza that are not quite as strong as the rest of the poem. This one is good. Number 2, there is gorgeous flow and rhythm. And number 3, this is like an 8.5 on the Get You Lucky scale. If she's bookish, wears a turtleneck, etc., you're in. But it has to be memorized.
Okay.
Okay.
And do I memorize this version or that version?
This version.
I don't know why I'm asking. I'm betrothed, but just in case.
What time are you planning on leaving?
3 bad things. It's uncertain in the constant ifs. If. There's no certainty. There's no foundation to this. It's unfortunate that it uses dated language in this Van Diemen's Land. That's not Dickinson's fault, but reading at this point, I had to go like, what the hell's Van Diemen's Land?
Which we'll get into.
Yes. And it doesn't feel complete to me. It feels more like a musing. And maybe that's just a compliment to the longing nature of this, but it's just there.
One of my bad things coincides with that.
Okay.
So, was that your third?
Those are my third.
Oh. 1 seems fairly surface level.
Okay.
If you were not willing to dig deeper, you could easily see this as a first read poem.
Okay.
Number 2, this has all of your Emily Dickinson search terms.
Okay.
Everything that you would ever search Emily Dickinson by, it's in here. 3, there's no real turn or tension. And I think that's where that third critique of yours came from.
Maybe that's what it is.
There is no real turn or tension, which makes it... What was your third one? What was it that you had said?
That it's not complete to me. It feels like just amusing.
That's why it feels like amusing, because we don't have that final twist in our head.
Okay.
That says, okay, well, there's the changing of the mind.
Okay.
It feels static.
I do have a favorite group of lines here.
Good.
I'll read it from mine, because that's what I got, and you can tell me if it's different. If certain when this life was out that yours and mine should be, I'd toss it yonder like a rind and taste eternity.
Yours says taste?
Yes.
Mine says take.
Really?
Yeah, and that is exactly the same quote that I picked.
Look at that.
If certain when this life was out that yours and mine would be, I'd toss it yonder like a rind and take eternity.
Only difference that yours and mine should be?
Yeah, I messed up and said.
Oh, and taste eternity.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting choices here from the editors.
I really enjoy... If we want to get specific, I'd toss it yonder like a rind. I think that's a great line.
Yeah?
I think that's a great line.
Okay. That whole group of lines there, I think, is the beautiful. I was going to say beauty, but I'm tired. So beautiful part of this.
Van Diemen's Land, what is that?
Is it Van Diemen's or Van Diemen's Land?
I say Van Diemen's.
My editorial notes here says Tasmania, founded as a colony in the early 1800s.
Penal colony, Penal, Dalton.
Okay.
So, now that we get past that, just because it's a historic reference.
Okay.
It might not be immediately obvious what that means. But you said this is very firmly grounded, right? There's no fantasy going on here, right? That was one of your bad things, I think? Or good things. That was one of your 3 good things.
Yes.
We take a look at that last stanza. But now, uncertain of the length of this that is between, it goads me like the goblin bee that will not state its sting. What's a goblin bee?
A fantasy creature.
Yes. As far as I can tell, it does not exist. Well, but I think that we know what that means, though.
What I'm getting at with that good point here is this is more... it's more realistic in the sense that this seems to be Emily Dickinson longing. Or it's the speaker longing, however you want to take it. It's not the speaker saying, I stop for death, and going on a eternal carriage ride.
I could not stop for death. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me.
This is not a speaker speaking beyond the grave that it's implied. This is realistic. This is human longing. As compared to that.
Yeah.
Which I think is the interesting part here, is this longing and need for socialization is beautiful with Dickinson. And she even gives us that little inkling of possible suicide through this. If you read out that yours and mine should be, I toss it yonder like a rind and taste eternity. Hey, I'll off myself if it gets to me faster.
Yeah, if it gets you here, baby, I'll go ahead and go.
Which is beautiful.
Right.
It really is.
And that's what this whole poem is.
Yes.
Did you have something else?
No, I'm just...
Which I think brings me to my first question with this poem.
Okay.
Who is this poem addressed to?
I actually thought about this a little bit. And I'd hate to say that this is the cliche of like a wife on a widow's peak. But I think the inclusion of Van Diemen's Land, which would have been kind of like a colonization type thing, you would have that situation where the husband of the house has gone away to do this or whatever, and has never returned. So is this the woman essentially musing on the widow's peak, saying, if time could pass faster, if we could be together again, I'd rather off myself than have to wait, not knowing if you're coming back.
Okay.
So that's kind of what I got from it.
So you're taking it that this is a wife.
Yes, more so than anything.
Which is interesting that we are painted in that palette, yes?
Yes.
You have a housewife in a kitchen shooing a fly away. Doing the laundry, right?
Okay.
We move on to counting on her fingers, skinning a fruit, until finally tempting the cruelty of nature.
Okay.
But now uncertain of the length of this that is between, it goads me like the goblin bee that will not state its sting. We have the narrator there wanting that sting.
Yes.
Right? For the pain to be over.
Yes.
Not to envelop the pain that is the sting, but because we know the pain is there, we just got to get past it.
Yes.
Right? So, I don't know if this is a longing lover. But when we're painted in that palette, it feels... to me, it feels more like an affair.
Okay.
Because we're painted in the palette of the housewife.
Okay.
All of these things that a housewife would do. But a housewife... Why does this housewife have to wait on the lover?
Okay.
Why does this housewife have to have that sense of longing? But it's not just longing. It is not a painful, necessarily, type of longing. With half a smile and half a spurn. Because as long as I am longing for you, I'm still getting to think about you.
Okay. If we're looking at the seasons mentioned, though, at this time period, when did the men return?
You tell me.
The fall. The
Okay.
harvest season. Because after the harvest, that's when that's the
work's
time
gotta
at
be
home.
done,
The work
right.
is done. So the man is able to be at home. So if you were coming in the fall, I'd gladly brush the summer by. Of course. This is a woman waiting for her man to return. This is a woman longing and hoping that he's going to return. Possibly, given the time period of this, maybe the man isn't going to return. It's a very interesting time where he might not be coming back. You do what you got to do at this time for work.
Right.
And if you die, you die. You're not getting that, life insurance check anytime soon.
Right.
So, I don't know. That's the way I read it, and I like it that way. I'm comfortable with it that way. But I'm also comfortable with the fact that you always tell me I'm wrong. So either one works.
Well, I think that the real... Look, we said there isn't a turn in this poem, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think there is a small turn. Okay. It goes from, what can I do, right? I'm brushing the summer by. I am winding the months in balls. I am counting the delay on my fingers. I'm tossing the time yonder like a rind. Until we get to that final stanza, where we're just waiting and hoping, right? We're understanding that we have no say in this. Yeah. So I think there is a small turn there. But the thing that gets me the most is that for such a lovey-dovey, sing-songy poem, there is a very frenetic nature here.
Okay.
Right? Imagine how you get when there's a fly buzzing around. Now you multiply that by 10 when there's a bee. Right?
True.
So there's that frenetic nature. I'd wind the months in balls and put them in separate drawers. Just imagine that.
It's monotonous.
Yeah, it's monotonous, but you're winding it up. Have you ever... How many times in your life have you moved?
3, 4, 5 times.
When you pack your glasses, that's how this sounds, right?
Yes.
Wrap it up, put it in there, wrap it up,
And
put it in there.
as
wrap it
a
up, put it in
man
there.
who has a specific glass and specific stemware for every type of liquid he drinks, it's hell on earth.
I imagine. We've got the mention of Van Diemen's Land, right? That's not good stuff. But then we get this: if certain when this life was out, that yours and mine should be, I'd toss it yonder like a rind and take eternity. So we go from that frenetic nature to a brief passivity before wanting that sting, right? And I think that there's just the nuance here, as with all Emily Dickinson. Every time you read this poem, you're going to find some... Don't give me that. Mm-hmm. Don't give me that.
I gave you that.
We'll see.
All right, carry on.
That camera's going to get turned off eventually. Now I lost my train of thought because you were being a jerk.
As with every Emily Dickinson.
As with every Emily Dickinson, there is nuance there that you will see from time to time. And if you spend enough time with Emily Dickinson, it's like that old quote about Joe Paterno.
Okay.
Joe Paterno has forgotten more about football than you'll ever know, right? If you spend enough time with Emily Dickinson, you will remember things that you found in Emily Dickinson.
Okay.
And it becomes a treat all in its own.
I think what I liked best about this, and see if I can try to explain this again, is this is not Emily Dickinson saying, I've died, woe is me, I'm looking from beyond the tomb, I'm waiting for death's carriage. Oh, poor, poor Emily.
Keep going.
This is realistic. This captures that pain and suffering that she references in her other poems. Is that a good way of putting it?
I think you've just not read enough Emily Dickinson.
From what I've read, and you know my readings of Emily Dickinson, this captures what she usually references.
Okay.
That's why I enjoyed this one, and I am willing to say that. Again, I read the edited version, so it was like watered down Emily Dickinson. So maybe that's the plus there. This is like Kool-Aid with a little too much sugar. It's delicious, but you know it's bad for you. Also, the best reference I've made all week. But I don't know. I'm really upset that I can't yell at this poem right now.
Because you did like it.
I did like it.
What was your second favorite verse?
I don't know. I love, like I said, I toss it yonder like a rind and taste eternity. I like that. I love the line of taste eternity. I think that's wonderful play there, but it is not terribly uncommon. I'm not sure if I can pick a second on a whim like this.
For me, it's the final stanza.
Yeah?
But my third favorite stanza is that first stanza. Emily Dickinson has incredibly good first stanzas.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like Emily Dickinson spent a lot of time on first lines.
And the concept of, if you were coming in the fall, I'd brush the summer by.
With half a smile and half a spurn as housewives do a fly. It is one complete thought.
It
right?
says so little, but says so much.
Right.
This is, again, when you're looking at the looking at like a film. William Carlos Williams' The Red Wheelbarrow, I talked about, how the scene zooms in and out like a film. This is time in the same sense. It's nothing to say, if you were coming in the fall, I'd brush the summer by with half a smile and half a spurn as housewives do a fly.
Yeah.
It is nothing. I'd brush it by, no problem. But that's 3 months.
Yeah.
Of waiting. 3 months of longing. 3 months of pain and suffering. It's just wonderful how it's captured like that.
Right like that.
Right like that.
But we also have to take into account the scope in general of this poem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it begins with the fall. We're talking about the fall. It moves to a year. If I could see you in a year. We move then to centuries.
Mm-hmm.
If only centuries delayed. And then...
eternity.
Well, we move to an entire lifetime, which slips into eternity.
Okay.
With if certain when this life was out.
And then it moves right back to the immediate present.
Uncertain of the time, right?
Well done. Well done. Do you have anything else to say about this? I'm tapped, and I think you're probably ready for my numbers.
That's fine. We'll go with your numbers. What's your numbers?
What's yours
Give me
first?
your numbers.
What's yours first?
No, we're not
I
doing
will
this.
show it to you so you know it's what I wrote.
We're not playing with
What's
this.
yours first?
Okay, I gave this 92 yonder like a rind out of 100.
I did go lower than that, but I gave it 88. Is 88 acceptable?
No, how is this not A-level work to you?
88 is acceptable. This is B+.
In the canon of literature, how is this not A-level work to you?
This is 88. It's still Emily Dickinson, so I still have to give it lower than you. But I will say this, I actually enjoyed this poem. I wouldn't mind reading this again or suggesting this to someone. If they were going to say, hey, I'm thinking about reading Emily Dickinson, after I got done berating them, I'd say, read this one, compared.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to find one of my lesser-known favorite Emily Dickinsons and force you into it.
And you're going to make me read more Emily Dickinson.
Yeah, I've had to read the canon of Harry Potter.
You read a couple of books every now and then.
Which means that I have been reading Harry Potter for my entire adult life.
Ugh.
The channel will suffer because the poem title will not be catchy. But we can all suffer a little bit for Dalton.
So we should read that one that was 4 lines long. That sounds okay.
You would be surprised at the genius in some of her briefer poems.
You find one for another time, we'll figure it out.
Okay.
But you're going to sit there and read that whole book until you find the right one and piss me off.
Look how many... Look, these are just the marks I've got in there, right?
Yes.
That's not including the things I've written.
Anyway, if you did like this poem, I would suggest Robert Frost, Reluctance.
Really?
Yeah, look at me. Look at me go.
Do you have a reason? Or did
I
you just pick it?
Oh, I just picked it. It's like, Robert Frost. Let's put him with Emily Dickinson. I think there's some similarities there with longing, and not so much the suffering, but the separation and longing between two.
Yeah, Robert Frost deals very well with quiet things, right?
Yes.
And this is a very quiet poem.
Okay.
But I think that if you enjoyed this particular Emily Dickinson, I'm not going to give a specific poem, but I think that you would enjoy William Wordsworth.
Okay.
Because I think that this particular poem is more lively than a lot of Emily Dickinson, despite the fact that it's quiet.
Okay.
And that sort of, in my mind, falls into the same type of wheelhouse as Wordsworth, which are well, I don't want to call him lackadaisical, because that seems like a slap in the face, right? But whimsical. I'll use whimsical. That seems more apt to me.
I hate the word whimsical. There's a story behind that. I'll have to tell you one of these days.
Okay.
But anyway, if you like this kind of thing, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. Give Adrian a like for this video. It's Emily Dickinson. He always gets excited to see a like on this.
And if you don't hit the like button, I will find you. Make sure you follow us on Twitter @StripCover and on Facebook @StrippedCoverLit.